The earlier plan detailed a massive buffer zone spanning more than 2,000 miles between Ukraine and its neighbors, including Belarus, guarded by peacekeepers from a third party, not by Russian or Ukrainian troops. But who could these neutral peacekeepers be? Both sides must accept this unknown force standing between them. Will it ever gain Russia's reluctant approval? This uncertainty sets the stage for the second line of defense, Ukraine itself. This isn't just any military force. It's Ukraine's steadily growing army, armed and trained by NATO allies, an army determined to resist Putin's vision of a demilitarized Ukraine. From the very first day of Russia's invasion, demilitarizing Ukraine was a non-negotiable demand by Moscow. Early peace talks in 2022 shattered over this demand, as Russia insisted Ukraine shrink its army by 95% down to a mere 50,000 soldiers, a number easily overwhelmed. Ukraine's firm rejection of this was loud and clear. Now, the second defensive layer defiantly opposes that push. Ukraine's military will remain large, modern, and firmly grounded in Western tactics and weaponry. The so-called coalition of the willing insists support cannot waver once the shooting stops. Without it, Putin might achieve his endless war. With it, Ukraine builds an armored shield no invader wants to breach. But will this Western-backed force stand unshaken? For 3 years, Operation Interflex, led by the United Kingdom alongside 13 partners, has trained over 56,000 Ukrainian soldiers. Their footsteps echo in the barracks, their voices rise with determination. Their hands clamp tightly on new weapons forged for survival. This training is no temporary fix, it's the forge of a future army, tightly bonded with NATO standards. The coalition's presence will deepen, expanding this training ground into an academy of resilience. Yet Putin's fury simmers at this reality. Watching Ukraine's forces grow stronger, more adept, more westernized, does it fuel his desperation? If so, what will his next move be? And then, the looming question remains, what happens when these three layers of defense collide? When the peacekeepers stand watch, the Ukrainian army readies its ranks, and foreign troops prepare to step in. Who will blink first in this deadly game? The fate of a nation hangs on the edge. What will shatter first, the fragile calm or Putin's unyielding grip? The last part revealed China's shaky neutrality in the Ukraine conflict, words of peace overshadowed by secret oil deals that fuel the war. Yet, Ukraine remains skeptical about Beijing's role as a peacekeeper. Now, a daring plan looms, 3 layers of defense designed to crush Putin's dream of swallowing Ukraine whole. But can this blueprint for peace truly take shape, or is it mere wishful thinking? Imagine a vast, tense buffer zone sprawling over 2,000 miles, not guarded by Russian or Ukrainian troops but by neutral peacekeepers from abroad. The silence there would be deafening, broken only by distant patrols and the faint rustle of barbed wire under an unforgiving wind. This demilitarized zone, inspired by the infamous Korean peninsula boundary, would serve as the ultimate early warning system, signaling any aggressive move long before chaos erupts anew. Behind this quiet shield stands Ukraine itself, its army rebuilt, strengthened, trained by Western allies in relentless programs like the UK's Operation Interflex. Over 56,000 soldiers have already been prepared to wield advanced weaponry, embodying a fierce refusal to surrender. This force is a middle line of defense, a living rebuke to Putin's demand for a stripped, powerless Ukraine. But here's where the scale tipples into unexpected territory. Around 10 nations may soon deploy soldiers deeper inside Ukraine. This third defense layer is more than a military presence, it's a potent symbol. With the UK possibly sending thousands of troops and modern jets, backed logistically by the United States, NATO's shadow creeps closer. Could these forces trigger a treaty meant to protect allied countries if Russia attacks? The mere thought shivers down Russia's spine. Yet, the question remains, will all these pieces fall into place without unraveling? What if Putin's game changes? What if alliances fracture? Or worse, what if the fragile thread of peace snaps before this grand strategy can even start? The battlefield smell is thick with uncertainty. Will this 3-layer shield become Ukraine's salvation, or just another line drawn in the shifting sands of war? The coming months may hold answers that shake the world's foundations. Previously, we saw how Ukraine's soldiers receive extensive training through a UK-led program called Operation Interflex. With over 56,000 troops trained by June, this effort has become the foundation for a broader plan known as the Coalition of the Willing. But what if the very backbone of Ukraine's defense is secretly transforming into a powerful military academy? Operation Interflex isn't just about training, it's a multinational endeavor involving 13 nations, from Australia to New Zealand, working in harmony to sharpen Ukraine's forces.
This collaboration aims to weave NATO's military doctrine deep into Ukraine's army.
Imagine the weight of that European and North American expertise flowing into Ukraine day after day, molding soldiers into a force the world has never seen.
For Vladimir Putin, this is a nightmare unfolding like clockwork.
His demand to strip Ukraine of its military might, leaving it vulnerable and powerless, is being shattered.
The coalition insists Ukraine's forces stay strong, armed, and ready.
Picture a fortress rising, built with layers, the first, a demilitarized zone acting like a silent alarm between Ukraine and Russia, warning of any hostile move. The second, the newly trained, well-equipped Ukrainian forces standing resolute, preventing any breach. At first glance, this may seem enough to block aggression, yet there's a twist coming. The real shock lies in the third layer, a potential invasion unlike any before.
10 nations, once reluctant to send troops, now prepare to deploy forces deep into Ukrainian territory. But this invasion isn't what you'd expect.
Rather than conquest, it's a strategic shield.
European soldiers, with the United States' logistical backing, could soon establish a permanent presence inside Ukraine.
The UK leads the charge, planning to send a brigade of up to 5,000 troops, bolstered by Eurofighter Typhoons sweeping the skies.
These forces serve two critical roles, continuing the rigorous training of Ukrainian soldiers and acting as a living deterrent, NATO's invisible hand inside Ukraine. Could this be a subtle yet decisive repulsion of Putin's ambitions?
If Russian troops dare cross this line, they risk igniting an international incident with consequences they may never have imagined.
The question hangs heavy in the air: could the deployment of these allied soldiers trigger collective defense mechanisms? Would an attack on foreign peacekeepers finally force NATO's hand?
The mere possibility may be Ukraine's saving grace, a shadow deterrent that forces Russia into hesitation. Yet, with so many countries involved, tensions rise.
Who exactly will stand watch? Will Russia accept this new reality, or will conflict escalate?
The future feels charged, like the sharp crack of thunder before a storm, warning of battles yet to come.
The previous section revealed how a demilitarized zone, a DMZ, acts as a buffer and an early alert between hostile nations. Now imagine crossing this invisible line. Could an entire war hinge on such a fragile boundary? To reignite the conflict, one side must dare to breach the DMZ first.
That act would send shockwaves through the world, giving everyone time to react. The infamous Korean DMZ, stretching nearly 150 miles, painfully illustrates this precarious balance. On August 23, a standoff erupted when South Korean soldiers fired warning shots at North Korean troops who had crossed briefly. You can almost hear the tension crackle in the humid air as bullets split the silence, then retreat like shadows in fading light.
This battle-hardened zone is a powder keg, where any moment sparks disaster. Now multiply this uneasy truce by nearly 10 times.
The Ukraine-Russian border slices across 1,426 miles of rugged terrain, a sprawling no man's land unlike anything seen before.
The challenge is staggering.
Ukraine's western frontier with Belarus stretches an additional 673 miles, a line already scarred with barbed wire and defenses built to keep intruders at bay. If a DMZ is carved here, it would extend over 2,000 miles, a colossal stretch demanding armies large enough to hold the line, day and night, through bitter cold and scorching summers.
Yet, the vision for this DMZ does not mirror the sweaty, uniformed soldiers entrenched on either side in Korea. Instead, this border could be guarded by neutral peacekeepers, third-party forces unseen in the history of this conflict. Who would these guardians be?
Russia and Ukraine both must agree, but coming to consensus feels like reaching for a ghost in a storm.
The question explodes: is it even possible to trust outsiders in this tangled web of suspicion and wariness? The stakes could not be higher. A peacekeeper's presence means more than patrols, it signals the world's unwillingness to let history repeat itself. But could fragile diplomacy survive the harsh, biting winds of betrayal? Who will hold the line when the sun sets and shadows grow long? The answer remains uncertain, and the silence is deafening.
As we left off, the plan for Ukraine's defense includes a European air shield featuring UK Eurofighter Typhoons, sleek, swift jets capable of dominating the skies at speeds over 1,500 miles per hour.
But have you ever wondered how these machines achieve such deadly precision?
The answer lies hidden in the shadows of intelligence shared across continents. These jets can patrol Ukraine's vast airspace quickly, ready to strike down any hint of aggression. Yet, to unleash their full power, they must rely on American eyes and ears, U.S. intelligence, surveillance, and command systems.
The United States stands behind the scenes, coordinating this complex dance.
Without Washington's data feeds and command control, Europe's brilliant fighters risk flying blind against Russia's threats. For insiders told the Financial Times that top U.S. officials assured European leaders they're ready to provide strategic enablers, advanced intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and air defense support.
Yet, there's a lingering question in the air: will the U.S. remain committed?
After all, back in March, intelligence sharing was suddenly cut off for days, a sharp reminder of the delicate chess game at play. This shift illuminated Washington's power to press Ukraine toward peace talks, showing the fragile balance beneath newfound support. But now, the American stance appears steely, firmly siding with Kyiv, motivated by a shared goal: ending this relentless conflict.
Still, the question lingers: will the U.S. hold this position when the pressures rise high?
And here's the twist nobody saw coming: all these forces, the European fighters, the intelligence networks, and the strategic plans by 10 nations, will only move in if the war stops.
Yes, the mighty coalition promises intervention, yet only on one condition: Russia and Ukraine must first lay down arms. So, after years of battle, will Putin ever concede peace for a future where foreign troops step onto Ukrainian soil? Or will this fragile hope shatter before it even takes flight? The answer holds the fate of millions, and it's slipping through our grasp like the roar of those waiting jets, engines roaring but grounded by politics. What's next for Ukraine?
The skies may be preparing for war or something far stranger: a tense calm before a new storm. The previous section revealed how the first two lines of defense against Russia's aggression are set: a vast demilitarized zone and a sharpened Ukrainian military trained by Western powers. Now, attention turns to the third layer: a bold, unprecedented deployment of foreign troops inside Ukraine itself. But what does this mean, really? Could the arrival of soldiers from 10 nations be Ukraine's ultimate shield, or a dangerous new gambit? Imagine the chilling hum of Eurofighter Typhoon jets cutting through the sky over western Ukraine, engines roaring like thunder in a tense calm. The UK is poised to lead this charge, ready to send up to 5,000 troops to plant a permanent Western presence deep in Ukrainian soil. These soldiers will serve two vital roles. First, they will bolster Ukraine's ongoing military training efforts, working shoulder to shoulder with Ukrainian forces to sharpen their skills long after the first shots have faded. The air will be thick with the smell of fuel and earth, the crunch of boots on gravel, as they forge this new alliance. But the second role carries a far more shadowy weight. By stepping onto Ukraine's battleground, these troops become living symbols of deterrence, a tripwire firmly anchored in enemy territory. Should Russia dare strike and kill any of these peacekeepers, it could be interpreted as declaring war on their home nations. This raises a provocative question: could such an attack trigger mutual defense clauses, dragging NATO deeper into conflict despite Ukraine's non-member status? The uncertainty of this possibility alone might freeze any future Russian advances. A psychological no-go zone stronger than any missile defense. Yet, who exactly will join this multinational force? Challenging Putin's ambitions requires more than a handful of soldiers. Names surfaced include Canada, France, Australia, and notably, the UK, all familiar from ongoing training missions like Operation Interflex. Even the Czech Republic steps forward, its president signaling readiness for peacekeeping duties, while Lithuania loudly commits forces, egging on their neighbors Estonia and Latvia to follow suit. Together, about 10 nations edge closer to crossing that line, ready to turn the tide. But such a complex coalition demands trust, coordination, and nerve under the shadow of a looming threat. As the rumble of engines fades into the night, one burning question remains: will this tripartite fortress of defense, buffer zones, an empowered Ukrainian military, and foreign boots on the ground finally break Putin's grip? Or could it provoke the very escalation this plan hopes to avoid? The clock ticks ominously. The fate of a nation hangs in balance, the scent of history thick in the air. The shadow hanging over Ukraine's fragile hope of peace is darker than ever. A 10-nation division poised to step into Ukraine's defense hinges entirely on one colossal question: will Russia consent to this new reality? Vladimir Putin's stance is chillingly clear: he rejects the very idea of European peacekeepers setting foot on Ukrainian soil. But why? What lies beneath Russia's defiance? Previously, we learned that a bold plan, the coalition of the willing, could transform Ukraine's security with 3 layers of defense. The final and most controversial layer involves deploying foreign troops inside Ukraine, a move Russia fiercely opposes. Now, the battle over the future of Ukraine's borders and sovereignty is caught in a tense standoff, with answers hanging by a thread.
On August 27, mere days after talks between Putin and Donald Trump in Alaska hinted at a possible path to peace, Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, slammed the door shut on any European military presence within Ukraine. His words echoed through the cold halls of diplomacy. The expansion of NATO's military infrastructure into Ukraine was a primary cause of this conflict. In his view, allowing Western forces inside Ukraine would only pour fuel on the fire. Yet, the question remains, could there be another way? Russia, while opposing Western boots on the ground, suggests a surprising alternative. It points to China as the ideal candidate to fill the peacekeeping role. But can China's neutrality be trusted, or is this just a brilliant maneuver cloaked in diplomacy? China's actions throughout the war raise uneasy doubts. Far from a disinterested bystander, Beijing has funneled billions into the Russian economy. It absorbs vast shipments of Russian oil, especially after India's demand waned under new tariffs. This oil flows like lifeblood into the Kremlin's war machine. Meanwhile, China's exports of dual-use goods, technologies that blur the line between civilian and military, have quietly bolstered Russia's capabilities, walking a thin diplomatic tightrope without ever breaking international laws outright. Despite this, China publicly offers to serve as a peacekeeper, presenting itself as the neutral guardian poised to keep the uneasy peace. But when the faint smell of burning oil drifts from Russian refineries and the low hum of factory machines producing dual-use parts fills the air, can Ukraine and its allies trust that the dragon brooding in the east will truly protect peace? Or will the wolves merely change coats? The fate of Ukraine's defense, and perhaps the broader balance of power in the region, rests on this razor's edge. Can Russia be persuaded to accept security provided by foreign soldiers on its doorstep? Will China's peacekeeping offer be a genuine bridge to peace, or a cunning stratagem to extend influence? The final act of this high-stakes drama is yet to unfold. The question now is this: will diplomacy break the deadlock, or will whispers of war drown out hopes for peace once more? The war in Ukraine has dragged on, inching closer to its 4-year mark, with no resolution in sight. Ceasefire talks have repeatedly faltered, as Vladimir Putin remains steadfast in his pursuit of Ukraine's sovereignty. While Ukraine valiantly defends itself, inflicting significant damage on Russian forces, a surprising twist is unfolding. 10 nations are poised to invade Ukraine, but this time, it could signal a new dawn for the beleaguered nation. On August 27, Euromaidan Press revealed that a coalition of 10 countries, united in their support for Ukraine, is preparing to send troops into the country. This marks a dramatic shift from previous policies, where Western nations provided weapons and training but hesitated to deploy soldiers. Now, a bold plan is emerging that could thwart Putin's ambitions once and for all. The proposed strategy involves a 3-layered defense system, designed to ensure that a repeat of Putin's 2022 invasion is impossible. The first layer is the establishment of a demilitarized zone, or DMZ, a buffer that would serve as an early warning system. This zone would require a significant troop presence from both sides, creating a tense standoff reminiscent of the Korean peninsula's DMZ, where military clashes are not uncommon. But the DMZ is just the beginning. The second layer of defense hinges on Ukraine maintaining a robust military, trained and armed by NATO. This directly contradicts Putin's long-standing demand for Ukraine's demilitarization. Instead of a weakened force, Ukraine would retain a strong military presence, bolstered by ongoing training programs like Operation Interflex, which has already prepared over 56,000 soldiers. As the first 2 layers address immediate threats, the third layer introduces the potential for a multinational force on Ukrainian soil. This deployment, led by the United Kingdom, could involve thousands of troops and advanced aircraft, such as Eurofighter Typhoons, patrolling the skies. The presence of these forces would not only provide training but also act as a deterrent against further Russian aggression. And what role will the United States play in this intricate web of defense? While U.S. troops will not set foot in Ukraine, they will provide critical intelligence and battlefield oversight, enhancing the European-led air defense shield. This collaboration could redefine the security landscape in Eastern Europe, leaving Putin to ponder the consequences of any further military action. As the situation evolves, the stakes have never been higher. Will this coalition of nations succeed in safeguarding Ukraine's future, or will Putin's relentless pursuit of power lead to further conflict? The world watches with bated breath, as the fate of a nation hangs in the balance. As the echoes of war reverberate through the devastated landscapes of Ukraine, August 23 marked a critical moment, shining a light on an unlikely player in this ongoing conflict. The Kyiv Independent revealed that German media believe China is poised to act, but with a caveat: it will only enter Ukraine under a United Nations mandate. Can it be a mere coincidence that this condition appears to offer China a strategic shield while increasing its influence in Europe?
China seems eager to embed itself deeper into the fabric of international relations, presenting its forces as peacekeepers while subtly gaining foothold within Ukraine.
But such a facade could easily conceal ulterior motives. Wouldn't that make China a silent eye for Russia, a prospect that chills with its implications? Picture a power that could whisper to Russia when to strike, all while wearing the guise of a peacekeeper.
The thought is terrifying enough as it is, but Ukraine's resolve rings clear. Any Chinese involvement has been firmly rejected by President Zelensky, who views Beijing's inaction during the initial invasion with deep skepticism. Zelensky described China's actions as a betrayal, indicating its facilitation of Russia's war efforts by opening the drone market. This statement highlights a bitter irony. China attempts to position itself as a neutral arbiter while its support for Russia's military ambitions continues unabated. It's bewildering how Beijing claims to maintain an objective stance in this volatile conflict, even as evidence of complicity builds. Yet, as the rhetoric escalates, what comes next? Will China continue to cling to diplomatic doublespeak while Ukraine stands firm against what it views as yet another threat? Could it even be that, in a bid to uphold its global image, China will reconsider its position? The unfolding tension paints a scene fraught with uncertainty and danger. Oscillating between possible alliances and bitter rivalries, the path ahead for Ukraine grows ever more perilous. What future lies ahead in this intricate web of conflict and allegiance? As the Ukraine war approaches its 4-year mark, the world watches in disbelief. Ceasefire talks have crumbled, with Vladimir Putin stubbornly clinging to his vision of victory. He believes he is winning, and he won't relent until Ukraine's sovereignty is extinguished. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues to fight fiercely, striking deep into Russian territory and inflicting significant damage. But a dramatic shift is on the horizon. 10 nations are poised to invade Ukraine, but not in the way you might expect. This could herald a new dawn for Ukraine's future. On August 27, Euromaidan Press revealed that around 10 countries, part of the coalition of the willing supporting Ukraine, are preparing to deploy troops. This marks a significant departure from previous strategies, where Western nations provided arms and training but hesitated to send soldiers. Now, a bold new plan is emerging, one that could thwart Putin's ambitions to claim Ukraine forever. This plan, as reported, consists of 3 layers of defense, designed to ensure that a repeat of Putin's February 2022 invasion is impossible. The first layer involves establishing a demilitarized zone, or DMZ. According to the International Committee of the Red Cross, a DMZ is a designated area between warring nations that cannot be used for military purposes. It acts as a buffer zone, providing an early warning system if tensions escalate. Imagine a vast expanse, stretching across borders, where silence hangs heavy, broken only by the distant sounds of military drills. The DMZ serves as a tense reminder of the conflict. Much like the one between North and South Korea, where soldiers stand watch, ready to respond at a moment's notice. For Russia and Ukraine, this DMZ would need to be expansive, covering over 1,400 miles of border, requiring a significant troop presence from both sides. But there's more. The proposed DMZ may not follow traditional lines. Instead of soldiers from both nations, peacekeepers from a neutral country could oversee this zone. This innovative approach could provide a semblance of security, but it raises questions: which nation will step up to fill this role? The second layer of defense hinges on Ukraine itself. Armed and trained by NATO, Ukrainian forces would form a robust defense, countering Putin's long-standing goal of demilitarization. This is a direct challenge to Russia's demands, as Ukraine would maintain a strong military presence, ready to defend against any resurgence of aggression. As the coalition of the willing solidifies its support, the stakes rise. The training programs already in place, like Operation Interflex, have prepared over 56,000 Ukrainian soldiers. This initiative could expand, integrating Ukraine's military further into NATO's framework, much to Putin's chagrin. But what about the third layer? This is where the real twist unfolds. The deployment of European forces into Ukraine, backed logistically by the United States, could change the game entirely. The UK is set to lead this charge, potentially sending advanced aircraft and thousands of troops to bolster Ukraine's defenses. Imagine the roar of engines as Eurofighter Typhoons soar overhead. A powerful symbol of solidarity. These troops would not only train Ukrainian forces but also serve as a constant deterrent to Russian aggression. If Russia were to attack and harm these peacekeepers, could it trigger a response under NATO's Article 5? The implications are staggering. Countries like Canada, France, and Australia are already considering contributions, with the Czech Republic openly discussing its readiness to send troops. The prospect of 10 nations standing shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine is not just a dream, it's a potential reality that could reshape the future of the region. As the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, expresses optimism about this plan, the question remains, will this coalition be enough to secure lasting peace? The world holds its breath, waiting to see if this bold strategy can turn the tide in favor of Ukraine. As the conflict in Ukraine continues, the nation is not merely on the defensive, it's mounting a fierce offensive against Russia. Recent enhancements in Ukraine's deep strike capabilities have led to devastating attacks that jeopardize Russian oil refineries, leaving them vulnerable to permanent disruption. Are we witnessing the beginning of the end for Putin's ambitions? With each strike, a symphony of chaos unfolds on the battlefield. The ground shivers underfoot as missiles soar through the air, their whistling a haunting reminder of the war's toll. The acrid scent of smoke fills the air, signaling destruction. But this isn't just war, it's a calculated strategy. In the coming weeks, Ukraine's audacious operations may reshape the landscape of the conflict. What if these attacks not only cripple Russia's war machinery but inspire the 10 countries poised to support Ukraine? What would happen if Ukraine strikes deep into enemy territory and the world rallies to its side? In this high-stakes game, the potential for victory looms heavier with each passing day. With that, an unexpected twist emerges. Could a new alliance solidify Ukraine's resolve and make peace not just a distant hope, but a likely reality? The next chapter awaits, as Ukraine edges closer to ending the conflict on its terms, subverting Russia's dreams of imperial expansion.